It's almost time. Kickoff nearly here for Sunday's championship games in the AFC and the NFC for the right to represent their conferences in the Super Bowl. It is the Commanders and the Eagles. It is the Bills and the Chiefs. Tons of notes on how these teams got here and what teams are doing to get to the playoffs and win in the playoffs right now, all around the NFL. Coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen. Love the everydayers that hang out with us as we go through the playoffs here and into the draft season. And you know the drill. We're doing it every day. We're breaking down the entire NFL daily on the Locked On Podcast Network. And welcome to all the new listeners. Hang out with us and hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. And today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. All right, we will be making our official picks in these games, AFC and NFC Championship games. Commanders and the Eagles should be a lot of fun. And the more I dive into that game, the more I'm interested in that one. And then, of course, always worth the price of admission when you got Josh Allen against Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs going for the three-peat against the Buffalo Bills. I want to start, though, with just some general notes about the playoffs, how these teams got here, and how important it is, Matt, to possess the football. It's all about the ball.
Yeah, there's some pretty strong trends, of the success of these teams lately and maybe what it takes to get here that the other 28 teams should take note of, And it helps to have Mahomes and Allen and Daniels. Yeah, of course. We know that part,
Have an amazing quarterback makes everything else easy. But as we saw in the divisional round, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens had an amazing quarterback, but they turned the ball over, and Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, did not. And in the end, that was the difference in the football game. Yeah,
it was. And so some of these trends, I know you have them handy at your fingertips. I don't. So, every team, am I wrong about this? Every team that's won the turnover battle this postseason has won their game.
Since the 2022 divisional round, teams that have won the turnover margin are 20-1 in the playoffs. So it's not just this offseason or postseason. It's every postseason. The only loss in the span of those was the Buffalo Bills, who were +1 in the 2023 divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that was the 45-42 final score.
Yeah. Pretty crazy game. Right.
And that wasn't an interception either by Josh Allen. Josh Allen was 9-0 touchdown to interception ratio in those playoffs. And he got bounced by the Kansas City Chiefs. And teams that won the turnover margin are 20-1 in the playoffs, in the last 3 playoffs.
And that could be, and I'm sure many of them are 1-0, 2-1. It's that fine a line, I think, is our lesson here. First of all, it's great that going back to the 1980s, turnover margin is still the most important thing out there. Fundamental football, don't give the possession away. But you can beat the Raiders and the Bears and the Jags, maybe, if you're these teams and you have a sloppy day. But this isn't a 7-game series. This isn't a 3-game series. You have a sloppy day against Josh Allen, like we talked about yesterday, and the Ravens go home. It's pretty cut and dry.
And by the way, in the 2024 playoffs, 7-0, having
7-0,
the turnover margin.
And these are strong trends.
And I drew I drew the conclusion about having the great quarterback, which is the most important thing you can have. And if you don't have the great quarterback, you got to win the line of scrimmage. But part of that is turning the ball over. What makes you a great quarterback? Well, you're not giving the ball to the other team, and you're putting points on the board for your own team and not the other guys. And so all those things are important. And I think the reason why there's such a strong correlation with the home teams winning and the teams with the turnover margin is because they have the better quarterback. And that's what better quarterbacks do in the NFL. Let's keep going through some of these. This is an interesting one with fourth down conversion rates that I also find fascinating. That
I think this is great. Yeah,
in my mind, the only 4 NFL teams with fourth down conversion rates of 70+% in the 2024 regular season are these 4 final teams remaining in the playoffs. Washington led the NFL 87% on fourth down conversion rates. Buffalo was 72.7%. Kansas City was 70.6%. And Philadelphia was 70.4%. The top 4 teams in the NFL on fourth downs are the final 4 teams in the playoffs.
Now, we could definitely argue when is too much of going for it on fourth down. That's a different conversation. And obviously the league has changed drastically. You know, people would have punt so many more times on fourth down 10 years ago, 20 years ago than they do now. And the analytics tell you to go for it. And that's great. But I do think you can at least play both sides of that to some degree, that you go for it early and then you're always chasing points and then you got to keep going for it late, blah, 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 blah. And I also think the tush push, which Philly has mastered and Buffalo basically does the exact same thing now, has been really helpful for this equation, really helpful. But think about it. You know, like the Lions have gone for it more than anyone on fourth down. So if it's 3rd and 7, they treat that differently than the Steelers, who are really conservative. They may run the ball on 3rd and 7, happy to get 6 or 7 yards against lighter boxes, against dime, against, you know, teams playing pass. So there's ramifications in downs leading up to the fourth down. What Washington did on fourth down is remarkable. I mean, I think that's unsustainable, but it's a huge reason they're here. And you can't convince me in any way, shape, or form that the 4 remaining teams have the 4 best fourth down conversion rates in the league is fluky. I mean, I'm just not buying it.
And why are those teams great on fourth downs? Well, they've got a dynamic quarterback that can either run with it or a powerful quarterback that has the automatic, you know, and that's the Josh Allen and and Josh Allen's got some athleticism to go with his size. But we saw it last week. They're like, all right, we're down here in the low red zone. Let's just hammer it home. Go ahead, Josh. Just make your way towards the end zone. Just keep going until you get there. It was like 1930s football at a certain point.
And the Chiefs this year going, you know, tying in third downs were pretty historic. In 3rd and 6, they get 7. You know, and
the Chiefs are just a different level, and Mahomes is just stupid. And you play against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he'll even throw the football to the other team occasionally and throw an interception to you. But then when it comes down to it, and they're down by 7 points, and he needs a third down, he always finds a way to get it. Always. And it is maddening when you're playing against that football team.
And speaking of the Chiefs, just to take a step backwards, this is another thing I tweeted was they've won 37 straight games, including playoffs, when they won the turnover differential. Again, some of those are only 1-0 or +1. You know what I mean? That's insane to me.
You can't give a guy that's that good more chances than you got, too. Right?
Yep.
And by the way, speaking of better quarterbacks, home teams, and we'll probably finish it up with this one with just the overall.
Before you do, I want to throw this one out there, too. The Eagles are the same way. Eagles are 26-1 when they win the turnover margin since 2022. 26-1, you know,
pretty unbelievable.
37 straight for Kansas City. I mean,
and it feels strange because we talk about so much to oversimplify it into one thing. But ask Bill Belichick about turning the ball over after he was a dynasty for 20 years, right? It's
right.
So important. And
it's that important.
It's tied into everything. Real quick, the home team thing. Home teams are 2 in the playoffs right now. Only losses were both Commanders going on the road and winning both of those football games. And again, that ties into, okay, why were you a home team? Well, because you had a better quarterback and a better football team. That's how you got there. And then guess what? The Commanders came in with a better quarterback and beat your team, even though you were at home and they were on the road. So I think there's a lot of correlations there with that. And then the Chiefs are 9-0 at home in 2024, including the playoffs, have won 11 straight dating back to last year at home. So they don't lose at home. And the Philadelphia Eagles 10-1 at home in 2024, including the playoffs, and have won 10 straight. Their loss was week 2 at Atlanta there.
Crazy. These are home field advantage in the playoffs is massive. And it's a chicken or egg thing too. I mean, Mahomes, Allen, et cetera, help you get home field advantage, of course. I mean, none of us are disputing still the number one thing you want is the dynamic stud quarterback.
Yes.
But some of this stuff that we've known since I was 6 years old, win the turnover battle, home teams usually win, is really showing up huge. And now the fourth down thing is kind of a new, we didn't talk about that 10 years ago,
And ways to level the playing field if maybe they have a little bit more dynamic quarterback than you, or the ways to break the tie if you're both very equally matched football teams. And that's really where the turnovers come in. And look, even with mediocre teams against good teams in the NFL, there's not that many blowouts in the NFL. There's a lot of games that are within one score. And that can be the difference in one turnover, making one score.
100%.
There's the bizarro, the best team in the NFL last year. There's always the bizarro rankings or whatever they call them, where if you just flipped the final score in all of the one score games. And the Cincinnati Bengals, the best team in the NFL.
Yep, exactly.
So, and their
turnover margin or their point differentials like above. It's only like 8th or something small, but they lost a lot more games than they won.
Next, let's talk a little bit closer about the Washington Commanders. Their remarkable turnaround to becoming an NFC Championship caliber football team in 2024. And of course, we will make our picks for the NFC and AFC championships next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Prize Picks. And when it comes to playoffs time, and we all love playoff time, right? If you're like me, though, you want to make the most of these final weeks of the football season and get in on the action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want the chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best place to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or you want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has you covered. We're talking over 10 million members and billions in winnings. It's clear that people are loving the platform. But by the way, you're not playing against those other 10 million members. You don't have to worry about sharks in the pool. It's just you against the stat projections at Prize Picks. You pick more or less and watch those winnings roll in. Here's a special offer for our Locked On listeners. Download the app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game with code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's talk about the Washington Commanders a little bit. Just a remarkable season. And it's not unheard of to have the second pick in the draft and end up playing in the Super Bowl, which is what the Washington Commanders can do. It happened about 5 years ago with the San Francisco 49ers in 2019. They had the number 2 pick in the draft, and they did pick a franchise-changing player, not quite at the level of a quarterback like Jayden Daniels, but that was the Nick Bosa draft. And the 49ers defense all of a sudden went from this team that couldn't figure out how to do anything to, oh my gosh, okay, you got Jimmy G, you got a serviceable quarterback, you got an offensive wizard as your head coach, and then now you have a monster on your defensive line to really pressure the quarterback to go with your studs you're developing on that side of the football. And the 49ers ended up in the Super Bowl after having the second pick in the draft in 2019. And I remember that draft. The 49ers after round 1, in round 4, selected a punter. And I'm like, come on, guys, what are you doing? Are you so good? You're so close to winning a Super Bowl that you're going to draft a punter in the 4th round? Well, they were right, and they were that close, and they actually got to the Super Bowl. Didn't quite win it, but that's the last time we've seen a turnaround like this from a team going from pick 2 in the draft to the NFC Championship game. The last time we saw teams do this was the Niners in 2019. Before that, it was the Saints in 2006. That was the year they drafted Reggie Bush in the 2005 draft, by the way. I don't think he was that reason in the catalyst, but obviously that was a quick turnaround team for them. I think it had a lot more to do with coach and quarterback with that football team in Drew Brees and and Sean Payton arriving, right? And that was the season they arrived as well in 2005, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
And then the Jacksonville Jaguars all the way back in 1996. Who's the pick at number 2 is linebacker Kevin Hardy. Really good player there. Again, not necessarily the catalyst. The Jaguars were an odd team in the 90s because they were this expansion franchise. And then all of a sudden they're really good, like instantly with Mark Brunell.
Yeah. Them and the Panthers got the league was too nice to them in terms of, because the Browns came after them and they were really, really mean to the Browns.
The Browns, you guys are screwed for a while.
Yeah, we gave it way too easy for them. They had a cakewalk into the playoffs, so you guys are going to have it a lot tougher.
But it just shows like it's a rarity. It's not impossible for a team to go from worst to first to be bad to becoming good. But not only have they been good, they beat the 1 seed on the road. I mean, it's been unbelievable what Jayden Daniels has done, the runaway rookie of the year on offense in the NFL this year, and what the entire team has done. Because I think when you look at the roster, it's obviously not done with the retool and the rebuild that they took on. So I think if you injected Dan Quinn with truth serum, he'd be even a little surprised how quickly they turned this thing around.
Oh, huge. In a way, it kind of reminds me of the Bills. Like the year that McDermott took over, it was, we're going to trade Sammy Watkins and all this stuff, and we're going to draft this young quarterback and totally start from scratch. And we got in the playoffs. Oh, geez. What happened there? Now, they didn't get as far. And I do think it's noteworthy, in case our listeners don't know, Daniels has a chance to be the first ever rookie starting in the Super Bowl. There's been 5, I think, that have got this far. Roethlisberger was the one that had the best career. Some of those guys were like Mark Sanchez and some not so great names, but Roethlisberger was the one that went on to have a great career.
Cautionary tale. Remember how excited he was about Mark Sanchez?
Absolutely. I mean, so there's been a couple that have gone, but only one that really gone on to great success. Not that I think Daniels won't, but this is going to be quite a test.
It's the test. And as we said, so even of those few teams that went from the number 2 pick in the draft to the championship game, only one of those teams, the 49ers in 2019, has ever won and gone to the Super Bowl. And we've seen 0 starting quarterbacks, rookie starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. So that's
new waters. Yeah.
Rare territory right now for the Washington Commanders, in a tough task ahead for them. And they're playing a much better defense this week than they did last week. Even though they were playing the 1 seed, the 2 seed does have a better defense than the Philadelphia Eagles. And Matt, the Philadelphia Eagles are favored by 6 points right now. By the way, all of the odds that we reference here all year long come from our friends at FanDuel. 6-point favorites right now. The home Eagles are favored over the Washington Commanders. So we've talked about home teams. We've talked about the difficulty getting a rookie quarterback here. Can the Commanders do it again and upset another team on the road and make it to the Super Bowl?
So I'm curious your thoughts on this, and I didn't have strong thoughts on it, but I talked about it all week when the Steelers played the Ravens. Who gets the advantage when the third time a division matchup, the third game of the season between teams? And I kind of came to the conclusion, talking to people, some coaches, really the team with the better players. Like it's hard to out scheme each other the third time. You might zag on the second one, catch me by. There's only so many tricks in the book, and you've probably shot most of your bullets as a coach. And I think the Eagles just have a lot better players. You know what I mean? And like Cosme's out, and now Jalen Carter against that offensive line just favors the Eagles because they're better. You know what I mean? In terms of the third matchup.
That's the matchup, really, when you look at this game, is the defensive front. And they're Big Fangio's done an awesome job. Zach Bond, just kind of out of nowhere, utilized as a really flexible off-ball linebacker, but that can still rush the passer. And I love the way he's being utilized, the young secondary. But it's the defensive front. It's the defensive line. They have potential to be a nightmare for a rookie quarterback on this stage. And I think that's the beginning of the end and the end of this game for me, which is why I'm absolutely picking the Eagles to win the game. The question just becomes points. Is 6 points too much? And to be honest with you, as good as Jayden Daniels has been, wowed me last week, I just think it's not enough points.
I agree. I'm taking the Eagles laying the points. If it were over 7, if it was 7.5, I would have a lot more difficult thoughts about it. Because I do think Washington has a clear quarterback advantage. I mean, Hurts is also dealing with the knee. They have hidden him to no end. I mean, I just tweeted this a little bit ago too. I mean, it won't shock anybody that the Eagles were the heaviest run on first down team in the league. Okay. I mean, that's 64%. That's a ton on first down runs. In the postseason, they're up to 71. Like they're just not even asking Hurts to do much of anything because I don't think they trust him, even with those receivers and a healthy Goddard who is also dealing with some stuff. But is Washington's run defense good enough? I don't think so.
So a couple more notes on that game. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the quarterbacks just real quick, and I do want to talk about the run games because I think those are fascinating and really important to me. And the big reason why I do like the Eagles in this football game. And of course, we will make our picks for Mahomes versus Allen, Chiefs and Bills as well next. The final segment of this episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Game Time, and the Game Time app is the place to find tickets to any of the live events you're going to near you. Sports, NFL games, college football games, baseball games, basketball games, theater events, comedy shows, and of course, concerts. Any of it near you, you can find fantastic deals and last-minute tickets as well at Game Time. One of my favorite memories this year was going to a concert and I ended up going to the second night because I was able to get such a fantastic deal on Game Time. And now Game Time has made it even easier to buy tickets for your favorite live events with a new feature called Game Time Picks. This feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to go searching through thousands of tickets if you're, say, going to see a stadium-sized concert or going to see, say, an NFL football game. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, and come on, let's be honest. You're a sports fan and you're going to be going to games ever. You got to have this app on your phone. If you're going to concerts all the time, you got to have this app on your phone just to check it out and see what kind of deals you can get before you go buying tickets. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. If the Commanders win this game and go to the Super Bowl, just the story is written. Crown Jayden Daniels, because that will be the story. It will be that they outscored the Eagles and they were able to put up enough points to go win this football game, despite the Eagles getting theirs, because I don't think the Commanders can stop the run. They didn't stop the run last week, but they were able to put 40 points up, and they got a defensive score. So that's why I don't like
the turnover battle 5-0.
Yeah, exactly.
Rewind a couple minutes, right?
A little bit. So you start to squeeze that narrow margin of victory, and if Saquon does, which the Eagles are fully prepared to do, and I fully expect Saquon to do as much or more as the 2 touchdowns and 100 and whatever yards on only 14 carries that Jahmyr Gibbs had last week against that Washington Commanders defense. I expect the Eagles to be able to do that again. And is everything else, the turnovers, the defensive score, are you able as a rookie quarterback to go into Philadelphia and torch that Eagles defense, who is clearly healthier and a lot better, even with Quinyon Mitchell and some question about some guys who are banged up? That defensive front is not going to allow it, and that's why I like the Eagles a lot in this game, and that's where the remarkable run ends for the Commanders.
Yep, and again, way outkicked their coverage. Awesome season if we're right, but I think this is a really difficult test. I mean, stylistically, just physicality, those offensive tackles and offensive line is going to be a problem.
Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a 2-point line here. So the Kansas City Chiefs at home favored by 2 against the Buffalo Bills, Matt. I have my very easy pick here for who I think is going to win this game against the spread. What are your thoughts about the Bills?
You want to take it away?
Well,
lead off? Yeah.
I'm saying it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs again, except the football gods don't like three-peaters, Matt.
They don't. I don't think in most sports they do, right?
Some weird fumble, oddball thing. A team that's behind has a kick return, and then they get an onside kick, and then there's going to be something completely insane about this football game. It's not going to be a normal football game. If this was a regular old game, I would say everything points to me that it's going to be Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs that win this game. 2 points is not enough. I think the Chiefs, this is the key to the game. First of all, Chiefs are at home. The Chiefs defense is more prepared to stop the Bills offense just because they're a better defense, I think, than the Bills defense to stop Mahomes and get them off the field on those key third downs that they're so magical at converting. And that's why I like the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. It's the football gods that might have a say in the end, though.
Should have said this to open the segment, but it looks like weather in both places, Philly and Kansas City, is pretty nice. You know, I mean, it's going to be like sunny and not crazy or rain or anything like that. I mean,
cold,
40s,
not like
not crazy.
10 degrees or something.
Should be able to throw. It won't be like, Buffalo with a foot of snow or any of that kind of stuff, which I'm happy about. We're going to see real football.
Yeah.
This is a tough one for me too. I mean, I just can't get it out of my brain. I'm not saying the Bills are a crappy organization. I don't mean that at all. But I watched them go to 4 straight Super Bowls and not win. I've seen them.
Speaking of the football gods,
right.
Stronger. The football gods not liking three-peats or just not liking the Buffalo Bills?
I just don't think they like the Buffalo Bills. They don't. They have, that was an awesome team. And none of those players are even close to mattering now. But this Bills group feels a lot like that, where they just come a little bit short. And my pick is the Bills +2, but they lose on a Scott Norwood missed field goal or something. You know what I mean?
So Chiefs by 1.
The Chiefs win it down to the end. Awesome game. I think Kansas City will do a good job against the Bills rushing attack, which has become a foundation for them. I really worry about the Chiefs offensive tackles, against Rousseau and Von Miller in a big game and all those type of things. So I absolutely think the Bills could win. They can go toe-to-toe with the best. But Reed and Mahomes win these games and the Bills don't. I'll take the points because I think it's a coin flip game, but I am not going to spit in the football god's face and say the Bills will beat the Chiefs.
Which is stronger? Which
is stronger? Right.
If it's Bills Commanders, which look, personally I'm rooting for, and I'm not picking that to happen, but I'm rooting for Bills Commanders in the Super Bowl for a few reasons.
That'd be great.
We don't have to get into those. I think most football fans are kind of tired of the Chiefs and are kind of rooting for the Buffalo Bills in this one. So that they got the nation behind you in a lot of ways. The Swifties, though,
they carry a lot of weight.
Notwithstanding, there's a lot of them.
We've seen a lot of the Eagles lately too.
Right? Yeah. And if you've ever traveled to a game in Philadelphia, you're probably like, you can miss me with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Philadelphia Eagles fans and their fake guy image that they always try to throw out there is pretty tired, in my opinion. And some good folks out there in Philly as well. I don't want to say that, but you're in Pittsburgh, so
wrong end of the state. Yeah,
right. Exactly. If it's Bills Commanders in the Super Bowl, we're talking about big time, historic, probably performances from Jayden Daniels and Josh Allen, and that is a possibility to happen. Mm-hmm. But especially the Bills Chiefs game. I mean, this is one, and I hope it's another 45-42 game, popcorn game. Let's just have some fun and watch this one. But I'm just not going to bet against the Chiefs at this point.
No, I can see the fourth quarter producing 25 points. After they figure each other out, it's just the OK Corral, man. Just letting it fly. Val Kilmer, you're just killing dudes left and right. I mean, just gunslingers galore,
And both teams have been pretty good at not turning the ball over.
Absolutely. I don't think there'll be a lot of mistakes.
To be honest with you, if I had to bet, I would say it's probably more likely for Mahomes to throw that interception than Josh Allen.
Agreed.
We're going by recent history. And Mahomes is throwing interceptions in one Super Bowl still.
And it's definitely more likely Mahomes to be taking sacks. I'm talking about this negative plays on offense.
Yeah, I will say that Juwan Taylor probably played his best game of the year against the Texans edge rushers last week. I think maybe 2 pressures or something like that all game long, and that's been a problem for the Chiefs. And that's
big problem.
I thought maybe the Texans could have an advantage. They didn't take advantage of that last week. So can the Chiefs continue that? Then you really like the Chiefs in this one.
I think Kelce has a similar game though, where he's 102 touchdowns. Something like that too.
Is Matt Milano like the key to this game?
he's questionable. I think he's going to play and he'll be fine, but
Yeah.
he makes a huge addition to that defense.
I mean, he makes a big difference when he's out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Great name to mention.
Flying and running down Mahomes when he's trying to create on those third downs, covering the middle of the football field with what the Chiefs are trying to do in the short passing game too.
All the green dot stuff, all the mental stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
they're two different defenses with and without him, in my opinion.
Can't wait for it. Championship Sunday is upon us. Let us know what you think. Get those questions.
Who'd you pick in the AFC?
I got the Chiefs. Yeah.
Okay. And you're laying the points too.
Laying the points on both home teams.
Okay. I got the Bills +2, but I don't think they win.
Yeah. I like your pick of the Bills covering and still losing the game.
Yeah, Norwood's gonna wide right it, you know.
Oh
I'm not trying to be funny. Just history tells us.
Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Matt and I back post-Championship Sunday to break it all down right here. Peacock and Williamson.